Sarah and Angelina Grimke were two women that defied the odds and showed that women had an early role in American history. In the early 1800s, a new identity for women developed. As the country became based on a market economy, women had to redefine themselves. Before this time, women's roles as housewife were part of the economy of the home. Now in the market economy, people purchased products, and the women's contribution to the income of the household was diminished. So now women were seen as the moral providers of the household. This is known as the cult of domesticity. Women were expected to uphold these values as moral provider, and these values were encapsulated in the term the virtues of a true woman, which were piety, purity, submissiveness, and domesticity. This is a widely held belief that women and men had different qualities and made them inherently, naturally different. This gave them different capabilities. This poem from a ladies' home magazine encapsulates this idea. Man is strong, woman is beautiful. Man is daring and confident, woman diffident and unassuming. Man is great in action, woman in suffering. Man shines abroad, woman at home. Man talks to convince, woman to persuade and please. Man has a rugged heart, woman a soft and tender one. Man prevents misery, woman relieves it. Man has science, woman taste. Man has judgment, woman sensibility. Man is a being of justice, woman of sensibility. Man is this quote came from the Ladies' Museum in 1825. Sarah and Angelina Grimke are two sisters who do not fit into this cult of true womanhood. This is the Grimke home in Charleston, South Carolina. The Grimkes came from a slave-owning family in Charleston. Their father was a legislator and a judge. Their parents, John and Mary Grimke, had 14 children. All of their children received an education. The girls were denied Greek, Latin, and philosophy, but were included in the law lessons. Sarah and Angelina's family lived between their plantations, rice and cotton, and their home in Charleston. In Charleston, they had numerous slaves, including housekeepers, laundresses, parlor maids, servants for each family members, butlers, footmen, among other servants. Sarah Grimke was born November 26, 1792. Sarah hoped to become a lawyer, but her father refused. As a child, she hated slavery. She taught her waiting maid to read, which was illegal. And when her sister Angelina was born in February of 1805, Sarah made an unusual request to become the child's godmother. This request was granted, and she felt like her life now had a purpose. Sarah first traveled to Philadelphia in June of 1819 with her father, who was in failing health. It was recommended that they go to New Jersey for sea air by the physician. Judge Grimke never recovered, and he died in New Jersey. Afterwards, Sarah remained in the North for several more months and was introduced to several Quakers on her return home. Quakers were pacifists. They did not have formal ministers. They allowed men and women a voice in the church. They were anti-slavery, which made them not popular in the South. Sarah eventually moves to Philadelphia in 1821 and joins a group of Quakers there. Her sister Angelina joins her in 1829. Angelina will later become an exile, forbidden to return to Charleston for her outspoken views on slavery. Angelina had a much easier life than Sarah because she was under the protection of her sister. She was very confident. When she moved to Philadelphia, she also joined the Quaker Church. Angelina wrote a letter to William Lloyd Garrison, the editor of The Liberator, which was an abolitionist newspaper. Garrison published the letter. Angelina, boosted by this confidence, went on to write an appeal to the Christian women of the South. She gained great attention in the North for her outspoken views on slavery. She says, but perhaps you will be ready to query, why appeal to women on this subject? We do not make the laws which perpetuate slavery. No legislative power is vested in us. We can do nothing to overthrow the system, even if we wish to do so. To this I reply, I know you do not make the laws, but I also know that you are the wives, the mothers, the sisters, and the daughters of those who do. And if you really suppose you can do nothing to overthrow slavery, you are greatly mistaken. According to Angelina Grimke, women should read on the subject of slavery, pray over the subject of slavery, speak on the subject of slavery, and act on the subject of slavery. She urges slave owners to free their slaves, pay them, and teach them. This is a radical idea in the South, and for this reason she is banned from the South, never to return. Sarah and Angelina Grimke were chosen as agents by the American Anti-Slavery Society. In this role they traveled to the North speaking against slavery. They attracted huge audiences. At this time, women were not allowed to speak to mixed-sex audiences, but men started sneaking in to hear them speak, and for this reason they were attacked by the Quaker Church and eventually forced to leave the church. In their minds, the two movements were inexorable. They saw the plight of women and of slaves as a moral injustice that could not be ignored. They opposed slavery from a Christian perspective. Their opposition to slavery put them at odds with male abolitionists and leaders who had thought that they had overstepped their place because they were women. Therefore, they became early advocates for both women's rights and abolition. We'll close with these two quotes from Sarah Grimke, which I think demonstrate her Christian perspective on this moral issue. Whatsoever it is morally right for a man to do, it is also morally right for a woman to do. She also said, the motto of woman when she is engaged in the great work of public reformation should be, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? The Grimke sisters bucked tradition by advocating the abolition of slavery and the equality of women. They did this years before the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848. They saw their cause as the Christian responsibility. As a result, they lost their families, their homeland, and the support of their church. They truly are pioneers of the feminist movement.